What's the dumbest thing you've done while you were high? One time when I was in high school, my mom went grocery shopping, and of course I used her time away to smoke a joint. When she came back with the groceries, she called me out to the car to help bring them inside. I put some Visine in, slipped on my flip-flops, and headed for the car. As I'm bringing the groceries in maybe 2-3 bags at a time, I'm bringing them all the way to my bedroom instead of the kitchen. My mom locks the car, walks in the kitchen, and says, "Where the hell are the groceries?" I'm standing there eyes bloodshot because the Visine didn't kick in yet, like, oh no. One night I go in the backyard to get high. I leave the backyard lights off so that my older neighbors can't see what I'm doing cause I'm immature like that, lol. I got a glass of ice water in one hand and I stepped into my pitch black backyard. Every time I move I hear a sound like there is an animal stalking me in the many bushes in my backyard. Whenever I stop the sound stops, but once I start moving again it sounds to me like the leaves in the bushes in our backyard are rustling and there is an animal in them. If I try to go back toward my back door the sound follows me. If I move further into the backyard the sound follows me. I'm legit freaking out thinking there is a big animal stalking me in my backyard. Turns out it was just the ice in my drink clinking every time I moved. I never felt so stupid in my life. I got super blazed one night near the beginning of pandemic lockdown and went across the street to the supermarket to get some chips and such. As I approached the automatic glass doors I saw a person standing on the other side, so I waited for them to come through. I stood there waiting for what felt like an eternity. I was getting frustrated, like what's up with this clown? Can't they see I'm waiting for them? Then I realized it was just my reflection. I convinced myself that I could really walk and it was just mind over matter. And despite my boyfriend and friends telling me not to, I rose up from my wheelchair and promptly fell under the pub table. I was covered in bruises and I had a sore bum for days. My boyfriend and his best mate had to retrieve me from under the table. Needed to go into the gas station to get another Dutch. Noticed for whatever reason my best friend's boyfriend had a full chicken costume in the backseat. I decided it would be funny to wear just the mask into the gas station. Didn't realize how bad I messed up until the girl at the register started screaming for the guy in the back room. They had just been robbed 2 weeks prior. Ate cat food. When I lived with my parents they had 2 cats. They would buy huge bags of cat food and put the food in a 5-gallon bucket with a lid and keep it in the garage, usually to keep it safe from outdoor animals, since it's the country and there is possum, raccoons, mice, and other small critters. Well, I got home one night from hanging out with friends and seen the bucket of food was open. I went inside and the self-feeder was close to empty, so I decided to refill it. When I went to the bucket of cat food I wondered if it was stale cause I wasn't sure how long the bucket of food was left open. So I ate a handful and chewed a couple times until I realized what the hell I was doing and spit it out. I still don't know if it was stale or not. It was just crunchy, lol. Almost gave myself hypothermia. While on a hike I picked up a big rock to throw onto a frozen lake and break the ice. I decided to walk out onto the ice to throw it. Rock hit the ice. Ice broke. I fell in. Had to walk about 2 miles back to the car. I was high as a kite with some friends. I look up at the sky and I was in awe. There were dozens of shooting stars through the sky. About 2 minutes later I realized the stars weren't moving, but the clouds were. Once I was eating a burrito like a ravenous beast and straight up bit my own finger. Another time I was gaming and my hands were cold, as I can get bad circulation. Well, I sat there thinking, man, it would be great if they made socks but for your hands, and thought I had a great idea. 10 seconds go by and then, oh yeah, gloves. Had a good laugh at myself for that one. Not me but my sister. We were both high at the time. We were cooking dinner. Can't remember the dish. I think it was poblano tacos with some Monterey Jack. Idea is, you hollow out the peppers, put the cheese inside, then put them over an open fire to char the pepper and melt the cheese. Well, while one was cooking, I was prepping another. I can't remember how long it was, but for a good minimum or so. I hear my name, the cheers, in a soft and quiet voice. Took me a bit to realize she was trying to get my attention. Then I noticed one of the peppers was on fire, while she was standing there, staring at the stove, still whispering the cheese, and not doing anything about it. Pepper tasted great though. Was with a group of friends with a bong in rotation. My turn in rotation. So I spark up. It was quite windy and I'm not the best, so it was taking me a bit. One of them said something that caught my attention. So I stopped what I was doing to say something. And then I went back to trying to spark up. For the life of me, I could not get it. I was trying another 5 minutes, and I'm thinking, why the hell can't I do this? The wind ain't even blowing anymore. I was attempting to spark up an open water bottle which was a bit to the left of the actual bong. 2 of my friends were dead ass watching the whole time thinking I was just messing around. But no, I genuinely didn't even notice immediately. At least it gave all of us a good laugh. Back in high school, my buddy and myself would drive around and hotbox a few nights a week. We were always prepared with eye drops, gum, hand sanitizer, and body spray so we wouldn't smell like dank when we'd go home afterwards. Anyways, one time we forgot all of the post-chiefing essentials and were stressed that our parents would find out that we were blazed after a session. We ended up finding a bottle of eye drops in his car, but still smelled pretty ripe. For some reason, we thought it'd be a good idea to roll in a random person's front yard to get the smell of bud off of us and get more of a natural, outdoors scent on ourselves. So we go out and do some log rolls in this person's yard. Got back into his car and he dropped me off at home. I walk into my house and my parents are on the couch watching some TV or something, and they ask, where the hell have you been? Apparently the persons whose yard we just rolled in just cut their grass and my grey shirt was covered in grass stains, and I had dirt and grass clippings and stuff all on my clothes and in my hair. It didn't get any of the kush smell out of my clothes because they walked up to me and immediately knew I was stoned. I ended up getting grounded for a couple weeks and my friend and myself had a good laugh at ourselves the next day in class. I randomly think of this moment once in a blue moon and it cracks me up. Christmas about 3 years ago, I was home alone visiting my parents and got very high. The internet was being slow, so I tried crawling through a very small end table instead of moving it to get access to the router to reset it. I got stuck, and in my efforts to free myself I knocked over a very ornamented Christmas tree. I left it knocked over and blamed it on the cat. My friends don't let me live this down to this day. About 5 of us were chilling at my apartment back in 2008 smoking some darn weed. I had been smoking pretty heavily for a year or so before this, so I had a decent tolerance, or so I thought. Anyway, we smoke out on my balcony and finish up and are all completely shredded. We go inside and decide we should play some Guitar Hero on my Xbox 360. Sounds like a gem to me. There's actually enough of us to use all the instruments and make a 4-man band. So naturally I booted up the PS3 and got Cloverfield off my Blu-ray shelf and put it in. I sat down in between a couple of buddies on the couch. Nobody has said a word since we came inside. God, we were blazed, and proceed to boot up the deleted scenes. I had watched Cloverfield once and wasn't even that crazy about it. We get about halfway through the second deleted scene and my buddy sitting next to me with his Guitar Hero mic in hand and lifted up to his mouth goes, dude, why the hell are we watching Cloverfield's deleted scenes? An hour of straight stoned laughter ensued. I snapped out of it, but man, I realized how good the stuff we had was that night. Later we went and got tacos at Jack in the Box. The driver was sober, don't worry, and had a great rest of the night. One of my favorite memories was with my best friend from college. We pulled into the drive-thru for some food. Got to thinking, man, this line is slow. I can only estimate we didn't move for 20 minutes. Turns out we were parked behind a work van without anyone in it, and they were inside doing some kind of remodeling. The worst part was, when we finally drove around to the speaker, they told us they were closed. It was the middle of the day and there were clearly other customers. We felt bested at the time and had no rebuttal and retreated and cut our losses. Obligatory disclaimer, don't drive high. Kids, you got DoorDash and stuff these days. Back then you had to smoke your way 15 miles through the snow to the nearest McDonald's. One time I got a new bong and I was with a big group of people smoking, and I got so high, so this guy brought like a blue light or something, and he turned it on and said nobody look directly at the light, but I thought he said look directly at the light, so I stared at it intently for like 5 minutes, and then suddenly everything went black. A few minutes later the lights turned back on, and it ended up being that they turned the lights out to make something glow, but I 100% thought I had gone blind for a solid 5 minutes. My wife and I had booked a hotel stay for March 2020. The city we were traveling to had just announced a citywide COVID lockdown the day we arrived. We ended up spending our entire vacation weekend in the hotel, eating edibles, getting drunk, and having intimate time. We were literally the only guests in the entire hotel. One night, I'd already had several edibles and some alcohol, and we decided we needed to order from a 24-hour cookie place. The guy calls and says he was outside, so I run out of the room, make it was past the front desk, get the cookies, and go back upstairs. When I got back, my wife pointed out to me that I was in nothing but my boxer briefs. I was so focused on hot chocolate chip cookies that I forgot to put on clothes. So this is when I first started smoking pot. I was sitting watching a movie in my apartment when I noticed a red dot light on the wall. It took me a while to figure out where it was coming from, as I lived in a top floor unit. I noticed the laser light projecting from the backyard of a house that was on the other side of the complex fence. It was super dark and windy, and it created shadows, and it looked like someone was posted up in the yard pointing a gun with a laser light in my direction. So I freaked out. I called 911. When the officer was on the way, I realized it smelled like pot. So I quickly lit an incense burner and he shortly arrived. I had a feeling he thought I was just super stoned, but when I showed him the red light and he saw what I saw, he freaked out too and called for backup. There was a whole crew of officers at my apartment evacuating the building. The responding officer stayed with me until his team went to investigate. Well, it turned out that this poor little older than dirt lady opened the door, confused of course. She directed the officers to the light, and it turned out it was a motion sensor that she had got knocked over, and the wind was blowing the tree and bushes she had, so it looked like people were in her backyard. From that point on, I will never call the cops. While high about lights, the cop peeked through the window the light was coming through and drew his gun and told me to get down and army crawl to the kitchen while he called for backup.